Aan tafel vandaag in de Zwoele Stad, Chad Bilyeu, een Amerikaan, woonachtig in Amsterdam. Hij maakte een comic over zijn leven hier. En naast hem zit Laila Frank. Zij woont de helft van het jaar in de VS en ze maakt verhalen over mensen daar. Een gesprek over eigenaardigheden van Amsterdammers, Amerikanen en natuurlijk die crazy US elections. Welkom bij de Zwoele Stad vanaf het marineterrein aan tafel. Ik moet trouwens wel zeggen, het gesprek gaat in het Engels gevoerd worden. Want een van mijn gasten is Chad Bilyeu. Nice to have you here. Laila Frank also. Nice to have you here. Before we begin, Chad, one of the most important questions we have to get out of the way is, where are you from?
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Really?
Well, I'm from Cleveland. I don't really care about Ohio.
Why I'm asking this is, I was told that this question always sets you off.
Yeah,
Aggravates you.
Well, it depends. I mean, the way you asked on the show, where am I from, it makes sense. But a lot of times I'm like chilling by myself in a bar, ruminating over life, having a libation, and someone comes up to me and like, where are you from? So for me, it's an odd way to approach a person. Because first, there's no salutation, so it's slightly rude. But then also, it's like, you kind of were looking at me across the room and you're like, that guy's not from here. Let me go find out where that guy's from. Yeah. So it's kind of like an instantaneous otherization of me. So it's a little annoying sometimes. Depends who asked.
A few years back, you created this, Chad in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
A comic about your experiences and your life in Amsterdam. You've been here since 2009.
That's correct.
And a returning chapter in the comic is this subject.
Yeah.
You call it the Dutch Inquisition.
I call it the Dutch Inquisition.
Is it a Dutch thing?
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I used to live in D.C., which is another cosmopolitan city, and there were all types of people. And then, you know, people got accents, and you know, oh, they're probably not from here, but I'm not going to ask them, because to me, it's not such an important question. Like, I can ask you, where are you from? And you'll tell me, oh, I'm from the Netherlands. But what does that mean? It doesn't speak to who you are, the quiddity of you as a person.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I like to ask people other questions.
Like?
Like, if you had a superpower, what superpower would you choose? I think that reveals more about a person than where you're from.
What would you choose?
Teleportation.
Why that?
Why?
Because I hate airports and I like to travel.
But the whole travel part will be gone if you can just be there instantly.
No, but then I'm like, I'm in.
Oh, you like to travel? I understand. It's not about the process, it's about
I'm
the
in
destination.
London, and then, I just don't like the middle part. You know, I hate airports. Like,
Laila? Superpower?
My superpower, that's a hard one. I think I would like to read minds.
ooh, that's an evil one, Laila.
Yeah.
You think?
You can easily turn to the dark side with that one. Laila, good to have you here also. You've been at the Zwoele Stad like 5 years ago. Yeah. You're a journalist, a correspondent, America watcher, as we call it in Dutch. I don't know if you say this in English.
I hate that term.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. In 2002, you made a podcast, Welkom in Washington, for BNN-Vara.
Yes. 2022.
Second season is coming up.
Yes.
Are there any new insights?
Yeah, absolutely.
New things you learned about Americans or the U.S.?
Well, the whole idea of the second season is a little different. So this season is all about what happened to the America that George Washington, the first president, hoped for and was fearful of. And when he left office, he wrote a goodbye letter to his people, a farewell address, with a bunch of really stark warnings that are very relevant for today. So I take that letter as a starting point, 6 episodes, six subjects, 6 places in the U.S. And have I learned new things? I learn new things every time I'm there. So that's kind of an obvious question. I mean, it's a it's a big country. It's a country that is still an experiment. It's, you know, there's a lot of processes that go slowly. Every time you go in, you open a little new door. You get to new layers of understanding a country thoroughly, really. Like, you learn code. We were just talking about that. So sometimes it's very subtle. I didn't really have groundbreaking, new thunder, lightning moments, but I did deepen my connection with the country.
Did you also turn a little bit more American yourself?
I turn American every time I get there. So there's a bunch of things. For example, this time around, I had my first Harley drive. So I went on a Harley tour, which was really great. I saw a space launch, which is really exciting, actually. I never thought I would like that. But every time I get back, I have these phases where I tell my friends I love them very much. I'm more complimentary. Like I tell people, hey, I like your dress, like strangers on the street. It's like the gentle way that Americans can greet each other and handle each other that I take with me every time.
So, and you take it back here also?
Yeah, I do. And then like the other way around is true as well. Within 24 hours of, you know, landing, I've been cursed at in traffic. I've been treated like shit in stores. So, you know, it goes both ways.
Is that also your experience in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Cursed at in traffic? Cursed at
yeah,
in
a
stores?
little bit.
Just treated like shit.
Treated like
hard.
shit in stores?
It's funny because I have a story in this book where I'm talking to my mother, and I kind of say I feel that people can be quite rude, acerbic over here. And she was like, well, that's probably just because they don't have guns. Because if you're rude over here, you might get popped, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of a good point, you know? People are less violent, less combative over here. So maybe you still got to get this energy out. Like, by nature, we're warlike beings. So sometimes you just want to hold for dumb or somebody on the bike, you know what I mean? As you ride by passive aggressively.
So, and when you're even, I don't know if you ride a bike in the US, but if you do it or you're in traffic, you can't say that. You can't say goddamn to just a random stranger.
I don't ride a bike in the States.
I do
you're-
sometimes.
You do?
I mean, of course you can, and people do. People who've been to New York City will also, you know, people can be rude sometimes. But in general, I feel there is a little more smoothness in our everyday handling of each other. That, you know, the Dutch would like to call it fake. I think it's a ritual. You know, would you rather be, you know, greeted with kindness or with a curse?
Right. 'Cause I agree with that, because it's like if you have an opportunity to meet someone, you're not necessarily, I come into your store, hey, how you feeling today? What's wrong with that? It's just an exchange of energy. And you're like, hey, I'm good, man. What's up? Chilling? Hey, you got the new... You know, just to smooth over the interaction and not
Dutch
make it
people
seem...
find that very strange. The "how you doing" phrase,
Well,
because that's just a greeting,
greeting.
in the US.
like, what's good?
But like here, it actually means people think it means "how are you doing? Tell me a story about how you're doing." But it's just a greeting, right?
It is. And you know what? You can actually answer the question honestly as well. It might surprise you how good Americans are in the beauty of encountering somebody in a moment.
Yeah. Well, that's the US, Chad. Now you've been living here for what, like 15 years?
Yeah, 15 yards.
15 jaar. Chad in Amsterdam, I already mentioned it. The comic is full of, this is the hardcover we're looking at right now. The
Yeah.
comic is full of just everyday experiences in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Almost like, I don't know if I'm complimenting you or offending you, but it's some Seinfeldian, observational.
I mean, that's a compliment.
Yeah,
I love
right?
Seinfeld. Yeah.
So just, I have a few examples here. Like we talked about the Dutch Inquisition, people asking where you're from. I laughed about this one, the Fietsdepot.
The Fietsdepot.
Can you just tell me the Fietsdepot, what it's about?
Fietsdepot is
I'll look it up.
way back in the day. I think it was year 2010. My bike got towed. And I was completely stupefied that they actually tow bikes here. I'm like, but then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's mad bikes here, so they probably would tow them. So I was like, well, what do I have to do? And like, you got to go to the Fietsdepot, which you don't have to do. So don't do it. You can pay for them to deliver your bike.
Is that so?
Yeah. don't
Get
go
out
to
of here.
don't
Seriously?
go to the Fietsdepot. So I went and I had this very strange encounter with this guy, and I mean I won't blow the punchline, but what I found, and for me it's like a metaphor for for Dutch culture, is like everything is perfectly arranged and segregated. These are the bikes from here, these are the bikes from here, that's the bike from here, da, 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 da. So I was like, this is kind of like a microcosm of
That's
the
how we run the
society
country,
to
man.
me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, which can be a very good thing, but also like anything has a, you know, a negative facet as well. So,
Now, what's the negative aspect of the Fietsdepot?
well, I think when you categorize things so intensely, you start overlooking nuance. And when you overlook nuance and you look at someone and you're like, oh, you're this, henceforth you do this, you're treading dangerous ground. I've been on the end of that, and I try not to think like that. It's difficult. Like when I see a cocker kid, I'm like, eh.
A what?
A cocker.
A kakker.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
And I see them and I'm like, I don't like these guys. But then I don't want to, you know, prejudge, because you never know. It might be a cool person.
Yeah.
So you got to watch falling into that, but you also don't like to be on the receiving end of that. So yeah, Fietsdepot was like that. But the punchline's pretty funny, I'd have to say. And it really happened like that. And then there's a good emulation of a very good Dutch accent in it.
You're a good salesman.
Thank you.
But the whole premise of Fietsdepot is like, you say it a bunch of times in the comic, like, they actually tow bikes here, though?
Yeah. It's
so
like,
that's, like,
oh, that
sounds
was a shock.
alien to you,
Yeah,
right?
to me. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to also show, like, be honest. And I'm not perfect. I don't know if y'all didn't notice or not, but I'm not perfect. And I try to put in my cultural programming in as well, because I'm like, how the hell do they tow bikes? But when you really think about it, well, that's the main vehicle. Of course you would tow an improperly parked bike. You know what I'm saying?
Laila, how long have you been going on and off to the US for now?
As a journalist for 6 years, and before that, more as a political operative and as a tourist. But I switched careers 6 years ago.
Do you have some similar experiences, maybe in the early days of like specific cultural things or quirks?
Well, I
Americans?
recognize what you're saying in the opposite way. So when I am in the U.S., people... Well, no, let me phrase it differently. The Netherlands is, in Amsterdam, we're a really small town. And we lack space, like physical space, but also that translates into creative space and space to think and space to being your own observations without other people pointing in there or having opinions about it. So when I'm in the States, what I've learned is that it's really great to have space to think, to travel, to be in a car for hours and just be there with your own observations without people, I would say, poisoning it, which is a strange phrasing, but without people trying to point you in a direction or put you frame you, because people tend to frame people like to frame you and say like you fit in that hole, in that depot. While I feel in the States a sense of freedom where people don't really care. I can just be who I want to be and portray myself as I want, and people will accept it.
Yeah, you're nodding your head, Chad.
Yeah,
Does that ring a bell?
I think, I mean, no place, again, is perfect.
No.
And individuals are, but I do think that is more commonality in the States.
But also the lack of space figuratively, like for your state of mind.
Y'all trying to get me shot out here. But, no, I mean, it's like, I think, well, you know what you know.
Is your head more crowded here than it has been in the States?
Nah, I'm real obstinate, so I just do what I do. Like, my Dutch sucks. I keep doing the same thing. I can't learn new tricks, old dog, you know? So, I mean, my head's not so much more crowded. I mean, maybe with different concerns, because I'm an immigrant now. So, like, for a long time, I was worried about a visa every year, which is a horrible way to live. But, so I had different concerns. But I do feel like a lot of things here, I'm like, I don't watch, no offense, I don't watch Dutch news. I don't really listen to any news nowadays. Some you can't avoid. But, so I'm really like in my own headspace, and I'm writing and I'm I read a lot. I watch a lot of films and good shows. So that's what I do. So I kind of create my own concerns. You know what I'm saying? So I avoid that.
There's one more. Sorry, you want to ask?
Yeah, well, there's something else. Like, as opposed to that, something else that strikes me in the U.S. is we talk about the land of the free, and I feel free there. But there are so many freaking weird regulations. Like, life is regulated in ways that we have no idea about. Like in Wynwood, where I live, it's one of the suburbs in Philadelphia. You cannot hang your laundry outside where people can see it, because either they think you're poor, but you're going to get fined. You cannot grow your lawn longer than an X amount of centimeter, or you will be fined. If I bring...
You know, that sounds very like Amsterdam. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I bring my friend's son to school, it's very restricted where I can and cannot walk, or I get a fine. So there's this... I feel more restricted when it comes to rules and regulations there. I feel more free when it comes to being a person. I guess that's the difference.
But isn't that also really a suburb thing?
No, it's a very American thing.
Okay.
It differs per... I mean, this suburb is very specific, yes. But there are weird rules and regulations like that in any county, any town, any state.
Yeah. Chad, just one last example from your comic. I read about... I don't know what the chapter is called anymore. The burnout.
Yeah.
Is it called the burnout?
It's called Billy Ocean.
Billy Ocean. Yeah. When the going gets tough.
Yeah. Tough get going.
Yeah. That's the state of mind in the U.S. Right?
I think so. Yeah. For sure.
But here you experience something totally different.
Totally different. A funny thing to me in the country, and it's kind of a paradoxical situation, is like people like to throw, oh, we have one of the best work-life balances in the world.
Here.
Yeah, but you also have the highest rate of burnout in the world. So
is that so? Is that
true?
Real? Yeah.
Yeah. The two can't exist. Like, sorry, if you've got the greatest working conditions, but everyone's still getting burned out, well, there's something there. You may not want to admit what the problem is, but there's a problem. Like, burnout is really like a first world disease. And it's also a high-skilled labor disease. I've never heard of garbage man complain about being burnt out. They don't have that option. So only certain people have the option to actually be burnt out. Yeah. You know.
Well, they may be burnt out, but they don't.
But they can't claim it.
Yeah.
You know, they can't take months off of work to do it. So for me, it was when I heard of it, I didn't know what it was till I came here, and I'm like, wait, what? What? You burnt out from this same job we all work?
But is the story you wrote down, is that actually how it happened?
Oh yeah, that's accurate.
So you also called in sick?
Yeah, I called in. I'm like, actually I learned of it, and then the next day I called in. I'm like, yeah, I can't come in. They're like, why? I was like, because I got the burnout. I'm sick with it.
Sorry.
Because I'm like, well, if Marika's burnt out, well, I'm burnt out too.
And how are you feeling now?
I feel cool. I'm making comics. Now I'm chilling. This is a labor of love.
Yeah.
So yeah, that shocked me, yeah.
Laila, you just told us about the second season of Welkom in Washington. Different approach. You're looking up 6 cities, 6 places.
Yeah.
And can you again tell me what was it George Washington wrote?
Yeah, George Washington wrote a farewell address. So after 8 years of being president, he was like, I'm done. So he wrote a letter to his people, and it was published in a paper. Back then, there was only 1 or 2 papers.
His hopes and dreams.
His hopes and dreams, his hopes and fears. And the warnings are pretty stark and very relevant. Like, 2 parties will kill this union. Pretty relevant for today. Or America should be really careful with its role in the world. Or, hey, theocracy is a real danger. So there are all these warnings that are still very accurate today. And he had hopes like a country of immigrants, the land of opportunity. And all these things, all these themes are still relevant and very much ingrained in the DNA of America. So what I do is, I'm not a headline kind of person. I do the news, but I do it from all my background stories. So I spend time with people. I spend a week, sometimes 2 weeks. I go back to them. We become friends or not. But I try to understand their lives and what they are all about. And I follow these people and their stories. And that's what you hear in the podcast.
And do the elections play a role in your...
In the background. So these are all themes that are relevant for the elections, but the words Biden and Trump are absent.
All right.
I like that.
You like it? Why?
I'm not such a fan of politics because I studied them. And I think a lot of times we've become lazy citizens, and instead of being involved, we'd rather elect people and leave everything to them while we enjoy whatever we enjoy. So for me, I don't think our salvation comes in the form of the politicians. I think it comes from us and our interactions and us working together, rather than depending on them to come up with the answers, which is where I think we're at.
Is that like an attitude you see and hear often?
This is we the people. It's like the opening words. We the people of the United States. It's about them. And it's the biggest cliche, and it's so true that Americans are just very good at addressing a problem and fighting for it. They're fighters.
Can you just name one? Maybe I don't know if you have something in mind. An example of one of the hopes or fears Washington wrote down. And a story you collected.
Yeah, so one of the things he said is we have a two-party system now, and I fear that they will be polarizing and will tear the union apart. I mean, it's kind of what we're seeing right now. And years ago, I stumbled upon a place on one of my road trips in Florida. It's called New Smyrna Beach. And on a terrace, I met a lady, and she was running for city council, and we started talking, and she was in everything. You could see she was a Democrat, a liberal, a progressive, and we started talking about the race, and she said, you know what you should do? You should talk to my best friend, Lou. We cannot agree on the sky is blue, or like we cannot agree on anything on a national issue, but on the local issues, we align, because New Smyrna Beach is going to shit, and we work together. So I thought that was interesting, and he's like your prototypical New York asshole right-wing talk show radio host. He used to work for Fox News. He's kind of retired, which is to say he's out of a job. And they're just great characters, and I've been following them around for the last 2 years, and I'm investigating their friendship. Is it sustainable to say in an election year like this that you work together on a local level and you ignore the rest? Like, what is that? And now Lou is actually running for mayor also. So there's all this political thing. But that's the type of story I care about.
And is it sustainable?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure, because what you see, and you see it everywhere in the US, if everybody retracts in his own little bubble and you only care about this little table, sure, you will survive on the table. But what's happening to the union? What's happening to the whole?
Yeah. You say you tell these stories through the people. The news is always on the background, but I've seen you at Nieuwsuur.
Yeah, zeker.
A couple of times last week, because it was like it was a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
For the last week.
Yeah.
At the time we air this, we don't know what has happened by then.
Nee.
But you also covered like the elections.
I do.
How did things change? Because let me state it like this. What I wanted to ask you was, how can you objectively report on the elections that are turning more and more into a circus? This was after the first debate. And now we have this attempted assassination on Trump.
Yeah.
Has it changed the tone and also your work?
I think one of the hardest things in a very polarized society, also in the Netherlands, is to think about what is my role in reporting on these elections. And especially in television and in talk shows, you are very much people navigate you towards extremes, and they like opinions instead of reporting, which to me is what I try to do. Is I try to explain what I see happening, what the power structures are, and how people move. I try to stay away from judgments. It's very hard though, because the most common question I get at a talk show tafel is, and Laila, isn't this ridiculous, ? Or like, there's always a presumption in a question. So your question, it's very hard to stay sharp and stay sane at that moment and stick with what are the power structures, what are the dynamics, instead of people ask me for an opinion, I will give it to them. Because I don't want that, because I strongly believe in journalism.
Well, I opened the show with, we're going to talk about this and this and this, and also the crazy US elections. You don't follow politics that much, but you also said there's some things you can go around. Has your view of US politics changed living here? Do you have like more of an outsider view now?
I think I always had an outsider view.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up as a nationalist, a patriot. My mother gave me the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was 9, and I read it then, so that kind of led me on a certain trajectory as far as politics go. And I think when examining American politics, and this probably goes for most political systems, but it is a flawed system. For me, American politics are like having a broken down car talking about what your next road trip will be. Our votes are not clean. Like, you remember when you're in school, maybe it's Friday, gym class, you got the open day, and we're like, what do you want to play? Everyone who wants to do basketball, raise your hand. Everyone who wants to do dodgeball, raise your hand. Dodgeball wins. Simple. Raise a hand, one vote, one person. Our vote has been diluted and compromised through things like lobbyism, gerrymandering, electoral college, super delegates. So it's not like on a federal level, it's not like one vote, one person, which is why I think civic government is very important almost everywhere. But yeah, for me, it's like, so I vote more because, you know, I'm a Black American, and if at a point we couldn't vote, and I got people in my family even fought for that. So of course, it's more like a ceremonial process, but it's not like I'm voting like I think, oh, this is gonna make a change because I vote in Ohio. So if I vote in Ohio and Trump wins, my vote is absorbed into an electoral vote, and it no longer counts. So
if you explain all these things, I'm starting to think it's a good thing that you're here.
Yeah, but then, I mean, it's similar here too. I just think, like, in the Netherlands, you guys like meetings. So, like...
We don't really, we just do them a lot.
Yeah, just do them. Like, meetings is like the national pastime. So here, like, you have, like, 2,842 political parties, and you guys vote, and then when they get in, they have to form a coalition. So at the end
and they talk about it for a year.
And at the end of the day, you got a party that pretty much is collinear with a Republican Party. But it just took longer to get to that. Now, with that said, we're ridiculous because we like a lot of flavors, like especially like if you look at our cereal aisle, hundreds of cereals, 2 political parties. So that's America, you know what I'm saying?
I read an interview with you where you said you're starting to get, I'm paraphrasing now, fed up with Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the next city.
A little bit.
What's it going to be?
I mean, I will never leave. I'll never leave because we got a spot. So why give up? And it is a beautiful city. But I feel that maybe my qualms are with the current administration. The gemeente, I feel that they hate Amsterdam. They hate the reputation, and they're working very
really sound
hard.
like an Amsterdammer.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's up. Okay, well, good. Because I think I'm an Amsterdammer. Like, I feel like it.
So it means you're a local right now.
I feel like it, but I would never claim that. But my homies who are echte Amsterdammers tell me that I am.
Claim it. After 15 years, you can claim it.
All right, I appreciate that. And but yeah, like that's it's too much. It's getting tight here.
Yeah,
you know, it's getting tight.
Laila, before we forget, because this is the end tune, there's a theater show coming up.
Yes, there is. It's with a guitarist and with 2 other guys. We do a narrative, storytelling and latest news show. Amerikaanse verkiezingsshow, November 2nd in the Schouwburg, ITA International Theater Amsterdam. There's still some tickets.
Should we go?
Us.
It's about the elections.
Let's hit it up.
Yeah? Let's do it. Guys,
all right.
Thank you so much for being here.
Indeed.
And telling your stories. Dit was de Zwoele Stad. Voor meer Zwoele Stad, check at5.nl of onze socials. Tot de volgende. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Nice meeting you.